I couldn't believe how popular your new parking lot was even before it opened.
That was in, I wish it wasn't because I want.
Or like.
But they didn't bring it. I reminded them last week and I reminded them today.
Dylan, no rush, but are we ready? Okay, thank you. All right.
Are they doing it all the way, are they doing it all the way across Colorado?
They're doing it every sort of.
That might be a good idea. Doug was gonna order some things to make like a patch out. Cause you can.
Well, not really tarry, but they're treated. I wouldn't wanna burn them. Bad idea. I think maybe if somebody had a bunch of them like that, maybe they could build like a log cabin out of the thing.
Yeah, so that's right.
Everybody, please come on in and take your seats. Thank you for coming tonight. I want to thank everybody for joining us for the October 27th, 2025 regular city council meeting for the city of Idaho Springs. We'll call it to order right at 7 o'clock. And before we get rolling, first of all, it's great to see everybody in the audience. We have a couple very memorable things happening tonight. We have the swearing in of our new officer. And then I want to thank Lisa Doyle also for coming. She has something special for us tonight as well. We will, and also one other thing before we do roll call, you'll notice Janine Mariani is joining us remotely. And also Jimmy Clark's, it's just really tragic. He's had a really tough year or two with his family, and his mother of all things was on a cruise ship and fell and broke her neck and is paralyzed. And they're not sure if she's going to regain any mobility or not. So he is down at Swedish Hospital with her. And, we're all crossing our fingers and hoping for the best. But, this has just been very devastating for the family. So I wanted you to know tragically, that's why he's not with us tonight. I'd like to start off with a roll call, please.
Jim Clark, Kay Collier. Here. Scott Pennell. Lisa Manifold. Here. Janine Mariani.
Here.
Representative Jeremy Jones.
Here.
Mayor Chuck Hartman.
Here. All please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please take your seats. We have an agenda before us tonight. Do I have a motion?
I'll move to approve the agenda for October 27th, 2025.
Thank you, Lisa. And do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second from Kate. Any discussion of the agenda? Hearing none, all those in favor, please raise your right hand and signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Does anyone tonight feel they have a conflict of interest? All right, hearing none, I'd like to move on to approval of the minutes. And do I have a motion?
Motion to approve the minutes from October 13th, 2025.
Thank you, Jeremy. And do I have a second?
I'll second. Okay, Lisa.
Tie goes to Lisa. All right. Thank you. And any discussion of the minutes? Hearing none, all those in favor, please raise your right hand and signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? I'd like to move on to approval of the bills. And do I have a motion?
Make a motion to approve the bills through October 27th, 2025.
Thank you, Jeremy. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second from Kate. And any discussion of the bills?
I do, like compression leasing services, repair air compressor. Did we repair, is that our air compressor that we prepared?
That's at the water treatment plant.
Okay. I was like, that's a really expensive air compressor.
Well, it's quite large
Okay, that makes sense.
and there's another bill I think for 9,000 for the radiator, that they haven't sent us yet. I'm not gonna bring it up.
Shush.
Yeah.
Any, any further questions? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Kate Collier.
Yes.
Lisa Manifold.
Yes.
Janine Mariani.
Yes.
And Jeremy Jones.
Yes.
Mayor Chuck Harmon.
Yes. Hey, next up, we've got a swearing in of a new officer. And with Brandon Robinson's being brought on, we are fully staffed.
Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Brandon Robinson, do solemnly declare and affirm that I will support the laws and Constitution of the United States of America and of the state of Colorado, the laws and ordinances of the city of Idaho Springs, and the rules and regulations of the Idaho Springs Police Department. I swear I will faithfully perform the duties of the office of Idaho Springs Police Officer to which I have been appointed.
I, Brandon Robinson, do solemnly declare and affirm that I will support the laws and Constitution of the United States of America and of the state of Colorado, the laws and ordinances of the city of Idaho Springs, and the rules and regulations of Idaho Springs Police Department. I swear I will faithfully perform the duties of the office of Idaho Springs Police Officer to which I have been appointed.
Welcome. Thank you.
So I want to welcome Brandon's family, Brandon's father. Brandon's father was a longtime officer, over 20 years experience, Morrison, Sheridan. So how many years have you been with Sheridan?
18.
Oh,
Okay, so we're so excited that Brandon chose us because that's the way I see it in this world, is that we're an agency competing for good applicants. And so it's great when you get somebody that you can see right away is going to be a solid member of the team. So we want to do something a little bit different and invite Brandon's father up here to pin the badge
Oh,
of Brandon. So, good, sir. Right there, way too.
It's for Facebook.
Wow. I just want to say too, thank you so much to all of his family for coming up for this event. This has been a bigger showing of a family
Thank you, guys.
for coming up. So
Yeah,
all
thank
for
you.
coming up.
Who is everybody?
Sure. Oh, I know this. Introduce yourself.
Aunt, dad, stepmom, grandma, grandpa, aunt.
That was
Wow.
Don't quiz me on that one.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Brandon, I drive a black Toyota Corolla, just so you know. I'm just kidding. You'll see me zipping around.
Please introduce yourself, if you wouldn't mind.
I'm Alex, I'm Leon.
Jason, I'm dad.
Marcy, I'm mom.
Elan, I'm grandmother.
Dan, grandfather.
I'm sure I'm the great aunt.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. You're part of the family now.
Yep. And,
All right, thanks.
Brandon, welcome aboard. Good to have you.
Thank you.
Hey, and while we are on the police subject matter, I would like to invite Lisa Doyle up and please tell us about what you have brought.
So I arrived a ridiculously large check for the police department, again, for Facebook. But we were out of town during the school shooting in Evergreen. And when we found out that our police here also joined in to help, we just wanted to do something. We kind of feel like our police kind of suffer a lot of slack in the community, and it's just, I don't know, you guys are the ones who go in, we don't. So we would like to show our appreciation and also hope to boost morale, boost other companies, boost other businesses, citizens to realize what all of you do for us.
Well, we
Thank you, Lisa.
yes, thank you, Lisa. We are so appreciative. I mean, in my 4.5 years here, this is a first. And so, I mean, thank you so much. There were 3 officers that did respond to that emergency, including me, and everyone performed well. And Brandon had just been hired, what, 2 or 3 days just before that incident. And we feel like it is a department, and I know the mayor and the council are aware, that felt like sort of the beginning of we've had some significant incidents over the last few months. It just seems like they keep sort of occurring. As Lisa had mentioned, you know, being on patrol live, I think 4 times, three
Oh,
or
is it
4
4 times
times.
now? Oh
I think
my
4, in the last few months has been just an unusual sort of thing. But we appreciate it. And this was out of the blue. And so my hope is that somehow we can do something at the new police station with these funds. So,
Great, yeah, so we we split it between you guys and Jeffco, so.
sure.
There's $2,000 for your department and $2,000 for Jeffco. So if I can get it for maybe a couple
Yeah.
people. and
I would love to get
this.
this on our Facebook page too. This would be awesome. Maybe a motivator.
No,
Oh, yeah, well,
no, Brandon should come up here too.
oh, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
It's a uniform and.
yeah.
Alright.
Do you want us to take two?
Yeah,
all
Rich,
3
you
of
should
you?
come over.
Why don't we?
No, I have
Take a picture of all the
copyrighted.
police and- On
A
their,
big smile.
with their phone? Yeah, with their phones.
Cool.
Hold on, guys, let's let
Right,
Ed
I want,
take a picture of all you
to
guys.
sign to take a picture.
Oh,
good.
How about you two?
So much for that copyright.
It's my phone.
Lisa, with you in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Lisa too, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, perfect, thank you.
Teamwork.
Okay.
There we
I
go.
do have a real check.
Not
too.
too high.
There.
Okay.
Your choice.
Thank you.
All right, and the real check. All
All right. Thank you very much.
You are
Thank you,
welcome.
guys.
You are welcome. Oh, thank you.
Thanks, Ed. Yep. Lisa, thank you very much, and, I also just want to point out, that, your company helps out every municipality in this county, and you have for many years, in other, areas as well. So your generosity is quite noted, and thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming tonight. Thank you.
Lisa, that was awesome. Thank you so
Yes,
much.
You're
it sure
welcome.
was.
And if you haven't, got to look at the new children's book.
Oh,
The Adventures of
Lisa,
Papa.
you know I work at the library? I can't wait to see it. I'll make sure I promote it.
Yep, sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, that brings us up to a public comment. Obviously, we wouldn't have anybody, from the audience, but, Dylan, do we have anyone online?
I don't see it. There's a couple people online, but I don't
Thank you,
know if
Chief.
they don't have their hands raised. Let's give me-
Lorraine is with us tonight.
Yes, Susan and Chris, you're the only 2 I see on the Zoom. If either of you wants public comment, raise your hand now or move on.
All right, well, thank you. That will conclude public comment. Next up is our finance officer. Lorraine, welcome. It's good to see you.
Good to see you too, Mayor. Thank you for the welcome. Hello, council members and everyone there. I'm here tonight to go through the September financial statements with you. And I'll be seeing you in person next month when we review the 2024 audit at one of your study sessions.
Oh,
But
yes.
first I want to share my screen with you for the financial statements. So let me know when you can see it and if it's large enough.
it's not there yet, Lorraine.
My side says it's screen sharing now, so I don't know what's saying on your side.
No, it's black and it says live.
But we do see your screen cursor.
Yeah.
So it just is not streaming whatever the image is.
Try that again.
I'm sure it would
Good
be her.
memories for when we meet you.
Yeah.
Good memories for when we meet you.
This is the nice glove.
That'd be a new tripod, right?
I did it. I shared it again. And I'm seeing it. Is it showing on your side yet?
No. We see your cursor still.
Yeah, we see that cursor moving.
Let me stop sharing and try again. And I'm listed as a presenter, correct?
Yes, you are.
Okay.
So it tells us that you're sharing and then the screen stays black.
Lorraine, if you like, if it's something that could be emailed, I'd be happy to share it, but I know you probably, it's easier if you control the screen, but it's still black.
All right. And I'll email it. Hold on, please.
Is it just what's in the packet? Because I could share that on my
It
screen.
is in the packet.
Oh, I think you have to stop sharing. I can try to share mine.
Okay, I'll stop sharing. That's it.
Yep, that's it.
Let me make it, try to make it full screen. Deal my tabs. Well, I don't know. If I just zoom in, how's that?
That's great. Thank you very
Okay.
much. I appreciate it. All right. Well, these are the September 2025 financial statements. And so 75% of the year has elapsed. And as usual, we start here to show where your cash position is. The town does have the city does have a better financial position, cash position, and I think it did last month, where you've started to get some reimbursements for some of the funding, spending you've done that's funded by grants. And so you've had to spend in advance, then wait for the reimbursements, and those are starting to come in. So at the end of September, you had 2.1 million in cash in your various bank accounts. And if you scroll down a little, you'll see the allocation of that 2.1 million between all of your funds. And there's some negatives here. So the general fund has 271,000 in cash. The ramp fund still has a fair amount of its money that had come from the state years ago to be used gradually or all at once on Colorado Boulevard. Your improvement fund is where a lot of your projects are being done, and it's in a negative cash position at the end of September. And so are your water and wastewater funds. So we'll keep an eye on those as we go forward. But the highlighted amount is the general fund, just to remind you that the first line on each fund's balance sheet is from this page. So if we go to the next page where we have the general fund balance sheet, and the first line there is that same figure of how much combined cash there is. There's also cash that the county treasurer collects each month and then sends over at the end of the next month, or by the 10th usually. So there's always some cash with the county treasurer, and you've got other receivables. Clicking down to the liabilities, there's nothing I need to highlight here. But your fund balance starting the year, the fund balance that appears on the balance sheet is always what you've amassed through all of time. Everything on the balance sheet is where you are since you first became a city in these various categories, these line items. And the fund balance that you started the year with was $1,353,000 in the general fund. And scroll down a little further, and so far this year you've drawn that down by 659,000. And so your total fund equity at this point in 2025 is 693,000. So we'll take a look at that figure, that the year-to-date revenues under expenditures of 659,000 when we get to the end of the revenues and expenditures, and compare that to what you had planned to draw down versus what you have drawn down through September. Let's go to the next page, and you'll need this page to be a little wider if you can. There you go. Now we look at the income statement, which just shows revenues and expenditures for this year through September. And we also show the same amounts through September of 23.
Right.
And 24, and what happened in the year-to-date actual compared to budget. So as usual, your top 10, your biggest revenue categories are highlighted, and we're 3/4 of the way through the year. So you want to see most items come in at least at around 75%. Some of them, though, don't get paid evenly throughout the year. Sales tax is not even throughout the year, and your Comcast pays quarterly, I believe. So the rest of these look pretty good, but you're a little low on the taxes at 67.7. You should be getting more. You should be getting close to 100% of your property taxes by the end of the year, and also of your sales taxes. That line item's useful to look at when you compare the 23 amount of $1,000,004. It dipped down to $1,390,000 in 24, but at this point through the year, now you're back to a little more than you had it in 2023. So that's encouraging that the sales tax is trending back up to where it had been and a little higher than it was 2 years ago. Moving down, you'll see budget of $250,000 for building permits. You never really know what projects are going to happen. That's much lower than that at this point. Going down to the county road and bridge tax, that generally comes in about as budgeted, so you may be getting more of that. None had come in September when we closed that month, but you will be receiving September's distribution probably next month. And same with the severance taxes. Those, it's not the same, I'm sorry. Those are coming in much lower than in past years. Those vary each year by the amount of mining and drilling activities around the state. So it's just plain lower, and I'm seeing that in the other municipalities that we do the finances for as well. Moving down to the fines, you're over what was budgeted there. So there's a lot of activity from that police department and people paying their fines, so that's good. Moving forward to the next page, which should be wrapping up the general fund revenues. And you're on target for these miscellaneous, if not higher. Your total revenues are about at 68%, and we're wanting to see those move up towards 75% when you get some of those later revenues that we're missing for highway users and sales tax rolling in, property tax, I should say. So the general fund looks pretty good on the revenue side. And then on the expenditure side, which starts in the next page, we generally go much more quickly and just look at the bottom lines for each department. And we see that the streets department has spent most of its budget already through 3/4 of the year. Some of that's operations, some of it's salaries, some of it might be some patching and things that happen in the summer that won't be repeated. Let's go on to the next department. That's something for management to keep its eye on, is the streets department budget. And then here's administration, and it's right at close to 75%. And that seems to be fine because some of the items like workers' compensation and CIRSA insurance is front-loaded in the year. Community promotions a little below the 75%. Your biggest one there is contractual services. It's right about half of what was budgeted. So that's okay. Building inspection is below what you would expect for expenses, just like it was below in what had been budgeted for revenues. So there's just not as much activity as had been contemplated. Police is right around 82%. And some of that has to do with purchases that are one time, like software. And if you flick back up to the page above, please, you'll see some other items. Let's look at the CIRSA insurance near the bottom there. The third from the bottom is workers' comp and property and casualty insurance, much higher than past years. And that accounts for most of the high percentage shown here in this department, the extremely high cost of insurance these days for police operations. Moving on to court, and that's at about 60%. So that's a good trend. We saw that the fines were higher than budgeted with the revenue, and the expenses are below what's budgeted. So that's a helpful trend. And the judges and prosecutors' costs are right on track for 75% of the way through the year. Fire department is 75%. That's a quarterly amount. And parks is right around 70%, so it's a little under its budget. And here we get to the end where we have the total fund expenditures of 3.5 million with out of 4.5 million that's been budgeted. So the expenditures are around 79% as opposed to 75, and for the reasons I discussed, that's okay. But remember, I said we're going to look at the net revenues over or under expenditures in this case and see what's planned. The year planned, the budget planned to draw down the fund balance by 235,448. That's the second to the right number on the bottom line there. And so far this year, it's been drawn down much more than that. So some of those revenues coming in later would hopefully perk that up, but we do need to keep our eye on the spending and the revenue for the rest of the year here. The cemetery trust fund has no activity. That's something that's held in trust by the city just because you're the most logical entity to do it. It's not really the city's property. And let's move forward a couple pages to the ramp fund, I believe. Oh no, yes. So the ramp fund again has that 696,000 in the combined cash, and it has a fund balance of approximately the same amount. And there's been revenues over expenditures, which we'll see on the next page, of interest coming in at 23,000 for the year, and expenditures going out on the next page of only 1,100 for the year. There was 850,000 in asphalt curb and gutter budgeted to be spent on Colorado Boulevard this year, and if that is spent, then this budget will be used up as planned. Let's keep going. Here's the improvement fund. Now, this is the one that I mentioned had a large negative cash. We are showing that the wastewater fund paid this fund back, so there's no more transfers waiting to come back in monies from other funds. And so the reason that it's in a negative cash position is mostly because of receivables from grants and also because of the big projects of spending. So take a big capital project. So let's look at the revenues on the next page. And the sales taxes are, as in the general fund, a little bit under 75% for the year, but we expect those to come in. There had been building use tax anticipated in this fund of 100,000, but those building projects have been much lower than hoped, and so there is only about a tenth of that that's come in. Motor vehicle use tax varies from year to year. When people buy new vehicles, that's when you get that. Often they buy near the end of the year, into the model year, so we still may be getting more. It doesn't come in evenly during the year. There's been the sale of some equipment, and here we have the revenues. So we budgeted for $1.5 million to come in from the Colorado Parks and Wildlife Grant. So far, a little less than a third of that has come in. And then same with a DOLA grant for the police department renovation. We budgeted $1 million. So far, about 90 grants come in. Let's see how much we've spent on those projects on the next page. The big numbers are down here where we have park improvements, go up a little more, please. 5 million has been spent there on park improvements. Budgeted 350,000. PD equipment is about close to what was planned. And there's more that could be spent on streetscape and mall improvements. But the sports complex and the other items that stem from your master plan are at 1.3 million already, and $1 million was budgeted. So that's a fair amount of increase. And then same with the public works. Oops, that's land. That's the land acquisition is higher than expected. It was actually budgeted in a different year, and it came through in this year. I believe that's for the police station, and then the improvements were 7. So if you add these two together, the land acquisition and the improvements, they're a little around the 1.5 million. But if you're expecting to spend 1.5 million on the improvements, then half of those have been spent so far. So you see there's a fair amount of expenditures, and many of these are grant related, and we're hoping to get those grant revenues to keep rolling in and help this fund to shore up its revenues compared to its expenditures by year end. Let's go on to the next fund. Conservation Trust Fund is the lottery revenues. It has a fund balance of about 125,000. And so far this year, you've brought in revenues on the next page that exceed your expenditures by 10,000. You've brought in these revenues and haven't posted any expenditures yet. Or you weren't expecting to have any. There was zero budget. The next is the street sales tax fund, and it started the year with $1.2 million. It's got revenues coming in of 400,000 so far. So this fund's balance is going up. Let's look at the next page. We see the revenue. The sales tax is about 70% in this fund also. Plus you have some interest earnings. And then the expenditures on the next page are under budget so far. So you had planned to spend about 500,000 on curb and gutter. So far, 111 has been spent. And then you have bonds that will be paid. I believe these are there's 2 interest payments. One's been made. And then there's 1 principal payment with the second interest payment that I believe happens November 1st. So the principal of 270 will be paid, as well as another interest payment of about 193,000. This fund was budgeted. Go down a little more, please. To have, stay on page 25, please. This fund was budgeted. The second to the bottom, the second from the right figure on the bottom line was that it would go down by 185,000. But so far it's up by 432. So if these other projects do have additional expenditures, that was planned. Okay, we can go on to the next fund where we get into the water. So here's water. I mentioned it had a negative cash, which is a small amount. You have receivables that are more than what your negative cash is. So we expect those receivables to arrive and shore up that cash amount as the year goes on. And we can go to the revenues, and they're looking, they're looking good. Sales taxes are at about 70%, just like the other funds. Hopefully those will come up higher in the winter season, Christmas season. And then your charges for services get billed every other month. So you see here on usage fees, the third column, go back up a little, please. So there were only $11.72 billed in September. It was probably an adjustment that was made on somebody's bill. But you would but year to date, you're at about where you are every September. We'll be interested to see what comes in with the October billings because that represents August usage and it's usually a high amount. Okay, let's go on to the bottom line here and look at these grant revenues. Here again, you're expecting federal funds from DOLA of 2.8 million, and so far you have like 1.7 million total. Perhaps this budget line item included all of these four. We're tracking them separately now, but it's still under the 2.8 that was expected. The ARPA amount, it turned out that you will not be receiving those funds in 2025. Those were received by the end of 2024. Unless they're new ones that I'm not remembering. So your fund revenues are lower than expected, mostly due to the grants and your every other month billing in utility bills. Let's go on to the expenditures, and we can look at the bottom lines of these operations. Is about 80%, and then distribution is 42%. And let's keep going to the right there. Those go back up one to the capital, please. These are capital projects, and you had a large budget here, which is why we had a lot of grant revenues budgeted. And these are the expenditures so far. So again, we're keeping an eye on those expenditure payments and revenue requests for the grant reimbursements for some or part of or all of those. Expenditures are at about 62%. You had been budgeted to draw down your balances this year by a hefty $1,000,001. And so far you've drawn them down by 912,000. These projects are wonderful projects. You build up revenues and the fund balances to do them. But when you see the money going out, it always kind of hurts to see those negative amounts, even when they're planned. Wastewater fund is more concerning because of the large negative cash here, and the receivables don't offset those. And this fund's been, kind of limping along with low revenues for a long time. And it's showing negative cash of quite a big amount here. We're going to keep looking at this and seeing how we can address this as the year goes forward toward the end. Let's look at revenues. Sales tax is 70% again. User fees, nothing billed in September again, so there'll be more coming in there. And a few tap fees that are a little less than what had been planned. So revenues total, let's go down. Here, the DOLA grant for Matty Dam is budgeted at $875, and through September, 200,000 of that had come in. So revenues are about half of what was expected for the year instead of 3/4. On the expenditures, we can go to the bottom lines on these or see the capital projects. Operations is 70%. That's some savings there. Collections, 68%. That's fine. But here's the capital upgrades, and you still have a ways to go on these projects. You've spent $1,400,000. We remember that there were like 200,000 that had come in from grants. So we're hoping to see more grant money come in for those. And then your debt service for the year is that you paid one of two payments for each of these loans, and you'll be doubling those in November 1st, I believe. It might be December 1st. So here you had planned to have a drawdown of $1.2 million, and you are about 75% of the way through the year in doing that, drawing down 979,000. Parking enterprise fund is looking better for now, although it has huge costs looming ahead if projects go forward. So you have, let's go back up to look at the cash in this fund. About 2.2 million in cash here. But thinking ahead to what the parking structure is estimated to cost, that's not anywhere near the total that's going to cost. So other revenue sources are going to be critical going forward with that parking structure project. But let's look at the revenues, and those are pretty cheerful. With parking fees is right about 75% for the year, so that was good budgeting there. And then the Federal Highway Administration grant is much less than had been expected, probably because of the pace of the project, but maybe because of waiting for reimbursements. So total fund revenue is at about 25% of the budget. And expenditures are below also for capital. They're at about 22% of the budget. Lease amounts are as expected. And so you're expecting this fund to have an increase at the end of the year of 441,000. And so far it has a negative. So we'll be looking for more revenues to be coming in there, hopefully from the grants and the parking fees themselves as we go through the winter months. Well, thank you for your attention. I know that it's kind of a harder time than you've been experiencing in the past with all these projects which are underway. They're impressive how much you're doing. And these time lags are something that Guy and Andy and I are keeping our eye on, sometimes on a weekly basis, to make sure that those revenue reimbursements are submitting on a timely basis, and that those grant revenues come in, and that the city can afford to keep spending on this project or that. If things get too tight, then there may be a slowdown on some of the projects where we wait till there's more revenues, more money in the bank to pay for the outflows that are needed for the big projects. But as of now, nothing is recommended to be stopped at the moment.
Hey, Lorraine, thank you. Go ahead, Janine.
I was going to say, I do have a question. So we got a draft budget in our last council packet that proposed some cuts to employee benefits and then no cost of living increases. And I'm just curious, in your opinion, if there's any way to maybe mitigate those cuts somewhere else in the budget. Just wanting your thoughts.
Yeah, it's hard to mitigate those because they are operational costs that you don't have grants to cover. And it's usually your workforce is the largest amount of spending besides any kind of capital. So at this point, it's probably a good idea to be very slow on changing any of those recommendations.
Lorraine, just so you know, we may not be moving forward with the construction of a parking garage. And I just bring that up because you had mentioned our parking fund actually is doing quite well. And I bring this up because we have been having pretty good luck in just buying surface spaces and using the parking fund money to pay cash for these spaces.
Oh.
And that in turn helps us with sales tax. We just opened up 51 new spaces. And in fact, the paint is barely dry on the striping in the parking lot. So
that's great.
I wanted to bring you up to speed because it was going to be a rather large expense that we were going to take on. So since we were not successful with getting the $25 million grant, we haven't been waiting. We have not been sitting on our hands. We have actively been acquiring some surface lot spaces at a fraction of what the cost of the parking structure, at about 70,000 a space and a parking structure versus about 19,000 a space with just surface lots. So because it was a rather large project and you had brought it up, I just wanted you to know that I think there's a relative bright spot in assisting our sales tax in the coming years. And probably, unless some money just fell out of the sky, we weren't planning on for grants with the parking garage, we probably will shelve that idea. Although we are going forward with the $2.3 million that we were given for the design, since there was no match on that. So it'll be
Very
designed and ready to go, what we'll call shovel ready at some point in the future.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate that update. That is encouraging.
And does anybody have questions for Lorraine?
I do. With the wastewater fund with that $600,000 negative balance, was that anticipated last year when we did this budget? I don't remember, so I think you might have a better memory than I do.
For 2025, if we can let me pull that back up, or I'll take a look at mine if you don't need to. Let me look here.
Because generally when we have budget, we have anticipatory negative balances, we have receivables that are coming in, and I don't remember seeing that we would be anticipating over $500,000 in a negative in this wastewater fund, because our wastewater fund tends to be one of our more volatile funds.
We were anticipating, if you look again at page 35 of the financial reports, the budget was anticipating drawing down this fund by $1,291,000. $1,281,000.
Okay, but how does that translate into a negative $632,000 balance in the cash combined fund?
Well, when you look at the balance sheet, what goes into the fund balance isn't just the cash, it's also the receivables, and it's really your total assets minus your total liabilities. So you do have outstanding loans and land value, and land account. So there's a lot of items that go into that are different from what we just looked at with the revenues and expenditures in one single year.
Lorraine, are you helping staff with the budget for next year?
In some ways, not in great detail.
Okay, so I don't know if you know this, but you just recommended that we don't wiggle room with the staff recommendations. However, in the budget for next year, there is a city hall remodel, I think totaled at $110,000. And I believe the train enclosure is also in that budget. And I don't know even what that number is, but I know it's pretty high. And both of those things seem like things that could be tabled for a while. And retaining all staff revenue, all staff, all the recommendations that we would normally put in for our staff every year, including the cost of living increase.
Yeah, that's unfortunately not necessarily the case, because those projects that you just mentioned are being paid for out of the improvement fund that's funded by a sales tax that can only be used for those types of improvements. It can't be used for general operating costs, which is where your staff charges are, your staff expenses. So you do have revenue sources, and that's why we go through all these different funds. And many of your funds are called special revenues, where they can only be used on the allowed items that are in there. So in the improvement fund, if we go back to page 19, you'll see the revenues coming in there are mostly from sales taxes, the 1 cent sales tax. And there's hardly any staff charges charged here. There's like 2% of Andy's salary, maybe. You know, it's just really, really minimal. So most of your staff costs are going to be in water and sewer and general fund. And that's where you don't have these extra sales taxes going in to pay for these salary increases or grants.
Well, my suggestion, this may be unrealistic, but we total that up, it's about $39,000 to maintain our staff benefits. This is not even giving them a raise, it's maintaining our staff benefits. And if we can't find $39,000, we should be ashamed of ourselves, because part of the problem that we're having is keeping staff that live in this area and can work in this area. And if we can't cover their dental and their insurance, we're not going to be able to maintain our staff. I know people that haven't taken a job with the city because of our pay. Our pay is not appropriate for the CLG level. We're at the low end of the CLG pay scale for our staff. So that's $39,000 just to keep our staff where they are, rather than taking things away from our staff. And I'm just beside myself that we can't, raises aside, cost of living aside, we can't find $39,000 with all this other stuff that we're doing to help keep our staff where they are right now. And I'm sad that Andy and Guy aren't here. I have expressed my displeasure to them, but $39,000 to basically kick our staff in the paycheck is not appropriate.
Lorraine, what's the purpose of all these special places that the money can only go? Is that an intentional thing, or is that like, this is how it's always been done, this is how it's done? Like, because to me,
It's a legal thing. Those special funds like the ramp fund, the improvement fund.
I get the water, I get the water. I'm just saying, like, our sales tax dollars should be able to go to salaries. I don't know why they would be only siphoned into certain areas.
Yeah,
I really don't understand why city hall improvements would be higher than staff. That's one of those things that just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, it depends on how the sales tax increase was presented in the ballot where the people voted for it. And I believe they were presented as, shall there be an increase in sales taxes in order to fund capital improvements? And so the question passed on the ballot, yes, and so it has to only be used for capital improvements. Same thing with, shall there be a sales tax increase for street improvements or, you know, maintenance and improvements? And the question was yes. And so that extra sales tax can only be used for street improvements, whatever was in the ballot question. And then you had additional ballot questions. Shall the sales tax be raised half a cent or to go into the water and wastewater funds? And the ballot question was yes. And so it can only go there. It can't be used for general fund. So those, whenever there's a special revenue fund and you have several, it's because of legal constraints on the money.
Lorraine, just so you know, I believe the date is November 17th. We're going to have a special meeting just about the budget. So I personally think we probably will have some positive suggestions on how we can improve things, but we're setting aside, you know, it's not even a regular work session. We're just going to have a special meeting to hammer out the budget here in a few weeks.
Okay.
Any other questions for Lorraine? Yeah. Lorraine, thank you very much. A wealth of information as usual, and certainly a lot of things to watch and a lot of food for thought. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you, Mayor. Good night, everybody.
Good night. All right, after our finance officer, amazingly, we have no resolutions, no first readings. City attorney is not with us tonight. Obviously, Andy is not with us tonight, nor is Guy. Dylan, good to see you. Did you have anything further to share with us tonight?
Nothing tonight.
Unless anyone has questions for me.
I hope I'm not out of line, but your skeletons look really cool. Dangling from the lighthouse. Was admiring those. Thank you for your staff report. Just wanted to see if you had anything further to share with us tonight.
No, we're gonna have the trunk or treat parade.
Oh,
this
yeah, on a Thursday.
Yep, down on Minor Street. I think the parade starts at 2.
I believe so.
I think that's right. So
Yep.
that's fun and exciting. And then, pumpkin smash, the 2nd of November, I think it's Sunday.
All right.
At the ball field, so that's also fun and exciting. Get rid of
Oh,
those
yeah.
pumpkins.
Yeah, very good. Thank you for pointing those out. And, Chief, you're up next. Have your report. Another good one, another action-packed one. And, wanted to see if you had anything further to share with us tonight.
Just a quick update on the officer that was injured. She should be back hopefully to duty, at the end of this week.
Oh, good.
Good for her. I saw the video. That was.
Yeah, it was a scary
Yeah,
video.
it was a scary video.
All
If I
right.
may, Mayor, thank you for your Chief, thank you for continuing to work on the Beth Miller case. I know that is
Yeah.
a rough case, but I appreciate that. I appreciate you all the willing to do that. I do have a question for you. Where are we with fixing the patrol cars that have been beat up and abused?
So working with Sursa
Okay,
on those claims and, working through that, just getting some information back. I got some today about the one that was damaged, first one that was damaged, the problem is it was brand new. And so I thought maybe we could fix it. But now we have some information today that's gonna have to be looked at again. So it's a work in progress. Now, the last one that was damaged when the guy backed up and the officer got injured, we were able to we just pulled the bumper back out and it's in service.
Okay.
So,
All right. Well, thank you, Chief.
yep.
Next up, Ed, got your report. I would like, to read, something, into the record, and this is from, Marilyn Lundberry. I want to recognize your Director of Public Works, Ed Sigward. My property at 146 Virginia Canyon Road sustained damage to the retaining wall by the contractor that was working on the street. The damage caused part of the wall to collapse, and then mud and debris flowed into the rock landscaping. I contacted Mr. Marsh, who directed me to Mr. Sigward, and evaluated the damage, and then quickly and efficiently repaired the wall and cleaned the landscaping. I so appreciate Ed's help in resolving this problem. You can be proud of having such an employee as Ed. My sincere thanks to Ed and his crew. Best regards, Marilyn Lundberry on Virginia Street. Couldn't have said it better myself. Well worded, and a big thank you. I also passed that around to everybody here, and I can tell you nobody's surprised.
And also, just so you know, I mean, Marilyn was married to the mayor and she has very strong opinions about things as I
She
am,
does.
and I appreciate that.
I
And
do too.
so this is this is a higher level of a compliment than,
Really?
yeah. it's-
Well, I did get some help from Matt,
Well, of
he lives
course,
there.
Yeah,
and I got some
Right
help
next door to her?
from, well, no, in the house
Oh,
that she's renting.
Oh.
Matt Pappin, he works for wastewater,
he's living
lives in
in
the house that's,
in Marilyn's house?
yes.
Oh, I didn't know that. Interesting.
And I got some help from Jamie from, F&F. That's the contractor that did the other work, or the, street work. And then on Sunday or Saturday, like 3 guys that were on her team came out and cleaned a bunch of the sand out of, one of the things and put the gray rock up.
Awesome.
And so it was a team effort. So
Very good.
I just poked them
You got it
and
done.
asked them to do it, and they did.
Thank you.
My part was smaller than you think.
Will you mention the parking thing?
I would love to mention the parking thing if I may. So Park Idaho Springs has coordinated with the library to create some times for interstate parking to be at the library to help register.
Ah,
Yay.
There's a flyer, so if you guys wanna tell anybody that hasn't registered, it's gonna be very easy for them to walk in.
Yep.
Keep my
Thank you.
fingers
Yep.
crossed.
And I'm gonna post it out front and I could put it on the website.
Please do.
Like, I
Thank
can
you.
do all those
That
things.
is important information. And, Ed, I wanted to check in and see if you had anything further to share with us tonight.
I can't think of anything. Thank you.
All right.
The parking lot's done.
Yeah.
Not done.
Hey, you know what? It looked good. And at one point I counted 21 cars. I came back like an hour later, there were 25 cars.
Nice.
So, the parking is going just fine, except it's a little dicey, as you pointed out. It wasn't your intention, to open it up. People just started parking in there. I don't know, maybe before next weekend, if we don't have some kind of roll-off protection or signage, maybe we'll just. I don't
We'll
know.
get some pay parking signs in there.
Well, and
See how
I'm,
that
maybe scare them out, right, with some pay parking signs,
Yeah.
but I'm saying maybe, maybe if both of the curb cuts, we have a barrier or something. For next weekend, just so people don't park in there, because could be a little questionable with the roll-off. I was kind of looking long ways down, if somebody, goes the wrong way there.
Yeah, the skate park parking lot is also quite popular as well.
Well, that's understandable, doesn't have the roll-off risk. Cause I know your intention was to get, some roll-off protection and signage up before we opened it. I was kind of surprised, there were a lot of people that just, once 2 or 3 people get in there, then everybody else thinks it's okay, and I'm pretty sure that's what happened, but it already was proving to be pretty popular, this weekend.
Right, there were a couple of, an expensive thing that happened at the wastewater plant. Did I put that in there? That PLC had broken.
You did put that in there.
I got one and a backup. They were $11,000 a piece,
Right,
but it's in and functioning,
all right, yeah, I did see that in there. Anything else you can think of? All right, well, thank
Thank
you
you.
again, Ed. I've got, a cemetery update, next, but do we have a cemetery?
It's just in the packet.
Oh.
Lou provided that to me with just everybody who helps her so much with the annual cleanup and everything and all the graves she puts on Find a Grave, and she's wonderful.
It
Very
is,
informative.
and embracing that kind of technology,
Mhm.
so that there literally is gonna be GPS coordinates for virtually all of the known graves. I say that because I think there are some that are missing headstones.
We also have the Potter's Fields, upper in the lower Potter's Fields, which
Never know.
we
Right,
don't know.
right. And then the number of volunteer hours
Yeah.
was incredible. The amount of time that people have put in has been extremely generous, and I'm glad Lou tracks that. Also, I will tell you, I don't know how she does it, but for like $5,000, I swear she does like $25,000 worth of work.
She's really good.
Oh, yeah, it's just amazing.
Yeah.
So, all right, well, very good. Just wanted to make sure I wasn't overlooking somebody that was online or something, want to talk about that. But, yeah, we do appreciate that. Next up is, mayor and council, and Lisa, I know you had, some items.
Well, I did. I'm very, very upset about the budget. That answer was not satisfactory to me. It's $39,000. And the fact that we're willing to take that, or we're told that we should take that and demoralize, in my opinion, our staff it's shameful, and we should be ashamed if we pass that. I actually asked a lot of the questions that I wanted to throughout the meeting. But that one was my big one. I would like to, I saw the report from the Budget and Promotions Board, and it seemed to me that there was a thread of disappointment that the city is not building this parking garage, and my question is, what would they like to see? We don't have the money.
No.
We don't have the money. We instituted the parking that we have because the businesses did not want the special improvement district to go into effect. So if they would like this built, what I read in there was that we'll have to handle this carefully, and I'm like, we don't have the money, what is there to handle about it?
Actually, Lisa, I would even go further and to say that the good news is we are fixing the problem for a fraction of the cost.
As
Yeah, but
best we can.
As best we can, but I will say, I don't wanna continue buying land all around the downtown so that we have a nice little historic district downtown and then a
Island.
circle of parking lots. Like, I don't think that's the best solution either, so
Well, you do know sales tax fixes the other ills.
it does, but one of the things that I think fixes some of our ills is a multi-storied parking garage versus continuing to sprawl out.
Well, there isn't a whole lot more sprawl that we need.
We could use a lot more sprawl, but I don't want that, like, I think that's negative
I
for
think
us.
you'd be surprised at how many more spaces we're gonna get in with the Bardoni house gone. And with what I will call enhanced, main parking lot. This is stuff we already own. We bought the Bardoni house, wisely for only about $250,000. I think, you're going to be impressed with the number of additional parking spaces we get in property we already own. The other big shot in the arm is going to be the county is undoubtedly, at least I believe, they're going to put their 32 spaces up, particularly on weekends when we could really use some additional parking there at the Health and Wellness Center. That would be an opportunity for them.
That would be really good.
And that's not even adding additional parking, but it is taking advantage of parking that's already here.
Sorry to hear.
The county could make some extra dough. And then as you've heard me go on about before, we actually make far more in sales tax per parking space than we ever collect in parking. Cause we average about $1,600 in revenue coming in from parking per space, but it's $4,050 of sales tax coming in per space. So
What's taking the county so long to come up with that's a great idea plan? Like,
Kate,
I mean,
honestly,
we literally could
I,
make the decision right here, right now and be like, yay, let's done.
you know, I'm.
Wrap it up. I get it. You guys.
I'm not sure, but
Three people.
I am happy that they're getting there, and also is a generous offering that Interstate made for the kids at the New Carlson. I think they have 68 spots, and as we all know, during a really busy time, the kids are out for the summer. And even in times when it's not that busy,
That'd be great voting park.
there's a Compass Day
Yeah,
on
it
Friday, and there's nothing going on really Saturday and Sunday.
Mhm.
So, other than maybe some credit card fees, but whatever the net is, the school gets to keep all of it.
Yeah,
There is no split. So that
no brainer.
that would be 68 more spaces.
Great
So,
voting parking and biking parking. too.
I think, we can't talk about it, but we are in, looking at possibly additional spaces, without too much smoke.
If I may.
Yeah.
And also, the thing that's lost in this conversation, in my opinion, is we gain a mobility hub as part of this, which hasn't been talked about as being leveraged to bring people to town in a more sustainable way. I really think if we get the mobility hub built, we'll get snow stopping, which could bring people into town from the airport to Idaho Springs, stay for a fraction of the price, take snow staying to the ski resorts, and it's a win-win. And for a fraction of the price of the parking space, we could say this is a brainstorm, but I've thought about it a little bit. $5,000 would pay for 100 or 500 people to take a day trip from Denver to here round trip. And I think people just don't know it exists.
So I like your idea, but when you guys talk about the mobility hub, you're still talking about like the bus roundabout, correct, Amanda?
Yeah, it's all the like transit improvements.
Right.
And that was.
And so
part-
what's the cost just for that?
Well, that's covered by CDOT as part of the program. CDOT, is giving the 6.3, and then we're matching the 6.3. And HDR, their original 15% design, they think it'll cost about $4 million to build all of that out. And then part of it is like negotiating an IGA on what happens to that other 2 million in improvements to really leverage that whole amount. And so the mobility hub really costs us nothing except space, I guess. It was brought up in the business community promotions meeting. Well, what if we just turn that into parking instead? And that really won't work because you lose all of CDOT's money. Plus, half the mobility hub is probably in CDOT right of way, so you might gain 10 or 15 spaces, but you lose 6.3 million. in other
Yeah, no,
improvements.
that
So
seems like a waste.
it seems like, I haven't done a ton of work with CDOT to leverage Mustang and Pegasus and all that more, but I think there's a real opportunity to increase the number of people who travel by car. It just takes a little bit of coordination and kind of like, brainstorming with the business community is how do we actually get people up here? And that really hasn't been done yet.
By bus union.
Good point. Please go ahead.
Just shout out to the Mustang. I took it from Edwards to Idaho Springs to get home from work, and it was lovely. And I do really think it's an underutilized resource, so just adding that.
All right, very good. But Dylan makes a good point, and that's why we have reached out to CDOT. We are trying to hammer out specifically, because it's very critical that we understand what their 6.3 million
Yes.
can be spent on.
Right.
For example, we have never even hammered out how many spaces they're expecting. We know they're expecting some. So we really need to get to the bottom of that. And right now you're spending $3 a day in extra fees renting a car, and that's every single day. When you rent a car out at DIA, and that money is to go to public transportation specifically. One of the things that's to be funded out of that is mobility hub. Also, there is a per barrel fee that went into effect on every barrel of oil brought out of the ground here in Colorado. And that's somewhere around $80 million annually. And the rental car fee is expected to do $119 million in revenue. So it is a significant amount. And I only bring that up because if we don't get money from the feds, we may actually eventually see some effort through the state.
Through the state.
Yeah, so that's something that we'll want to keep our eye on, but it's still important that we talk to CDOT to talk about what the money can be spent on. And anything else before we adjourn?
I do have one last thing and then I am done, I
Sure.
promise. I went to the Regional Housing Authority meeting and I think that our support of that is really important. But one of the things that I think we have got to help them do or be supportive of, or whatever they're gonna need, is to separate the Regional Housing Authority. There's a great deal of enmeshment with the county. It is financial, it seems to be personnel. That's not gonna go fly going forward. Like those need to be two separate organizations. And I think I've talked to Janine about that. I think they're getting better, but that was my impression when I went to the meeting last week.
I can add a little bit to that. Yeah, I think our problem has been that the county is providing right now, with our last executive director, we don't have one right now we're hiring, but we had a contract with them where they were providing like benefits, HR, payroll type things. And we were just in a place where we didn't have anybody else to do it. So I do think that enmeshed us in a way that's not really in the authority's benefit to be independent. Guy did get a quote from ADP to do HR independently, and I'm meeting with ADP on Wednesday to get a quote for them to administer benefits. So I think if we can go into the next meeting with some proposals that would keep it separate and not need us to rely on the county or really any other municipality to administer HR benefits, I personally believe that's kind of a step we can take to, remain independent, because I agree that's in the best interest of the authority.
I'm not throwing shade. I just think it's really important for this organization because I can see where the housing authority may come up against some of the municipalities. I think it's important for the housing authority to have its own autonomy. Yes, there's enough in that the RHA is being funded by all of us. Like that's hard enough. I think if we can keep it separate every other way, that's probably for the best.
All right, anything further before we adjourn?
That's for me.
A big thank you to folks in the room who have put in like a 13-hour day today. And we'll call it adjourned at 8:13.